10 people who woke up at their own funeral. Hello and welcome back to our channel. We are back this time with another amazing video. Do you ever wonder what would happen if you died suddenly? Or let me ask you something even more frightening. What if you revive again after you died once, and that too at your own funeral? Do you find it amusing, or does this sound too childish to you? Well, this has actually happened multiple times that someone died and revived again and left everyone else dumbfounded. Strange, right? So in today's video, we'll be telling you about the stories of 10 people who woke up at their own funeral. So without wasting any further time, let's get straight into the video. Number 10, Watson Franklin. Did this ever cross your mind that what if your life savior, your doctor, becomes the cause of your death? That's right, this happens. Patients often die due to the negligence of the doctors. The same happened with Watson Franklin of Peru, who died after undergoing a root canal. Watson was experiencing continuous chills and fever followed by his root canal. According to the relatives of the deceased, the doctors gave him diazepam and he was sedated because of the drugs. Watson was declared dead by the doctors, but the relatives noticed visible signs of life at his funeral as his ribs continued to rise and fall inside the coffin. He was then confirmed as alive by a doctor, after which he was immediately removed from the coffin and taken to the hospital, but again at the hospital, he was declared dead. What a pity he couldn't live after being revived. Number 9, Gilberto Araujo. Not too long ago, in 2012, Gilberto Araujo became a victim of mistaken identity. Gilberto worked at a car wash center. One of his co-workers was killed in a violent incident that took place at the car wash. Gilberto's brother failed to identify the dead body and mistook him for Gilberto. Maybe it was because the deceased body was too injured to be identified. The family had prepared everything for his funeral, but Gilberto arrived at his funeral all well and good. Of course, the family was shocked, but in the end, they were happy to see him alive. However, it was very hard for Gilberto to recover from the stress and pain the event caused him to go through. Number 8, Mohammed Rayyan. What if you go to the market for shopping and end up getting killed in a terrorist attack? One day there was a big strike at a local market in Damascus, Syria. Mohammed Rayyan was present at the market at the time of the strike. The police and investigation team reported him dead because of some unknown reasons. According to police, Rayyan was buried deep down under the pieces of broken walls of shops. However, Rayyan was lucky enough to survive under the huge rocks for 36 hours, and after that, he came out of the destruction site without any rescue. How heroic! Rayyan's family was just about to perform his funeral without his body, but Rayyan made an appearance at his funeral out of nowhere. The family went through a huge emotional roller coaster, but eventually they were happy that Rayyan was safe and alive. Number 7, Hamdi Hazef Al-Nubi. Do you think that medical science can still make mistakes even though it's so advanced now? Well, if you think otherwise, you're mistaken too. In 2012, a 28-year-old waiter, Hamdi Hazef Al-Nubi, became the victim of the mistakes of medical science, just like hundreds of other people. Hafez had a sudden stroke while he was at work. As he belonged to an Islamic family, his parents immediately began the preparations for a traditional burial ceremony. But when the body arrived at a medical examiner's office for a final check, the examiner noticed that his body was unexpectedly warm, as humans turn cold after being dead. The examiners cross-checked him immediately, and Hamad was found to be alive. The family then turned the burial ceremony into a celebration ceremony. Number 6, Matthew Wall. In a village in England, a local farmer had a very good reputation. When the farmer died, the whole village gathered at his funeral. While the people were carrying away his coffin to bury it, they accidentally dropped the coffin. But as soon as they dropped it down, Matthew woke up. To everyone's surprise, Matthew woke up at his funeral, and what's even more interesting is that he then lived for another 2 decades. The villagers then continued to celebrate Farmer's Day every year on the day of his funeral. Number 5, Zhang Diyang. Have you ever tested the loyalty of your loved ones by making them go through certain difficult situations? But what if we tell you there was a person who decided to test the loyalty of his loved ones by faking his own death and arranging his own funeral? Zhang Diyang was a 66-year-old Chinese who faked his own death and then arranged his own funeral to see how many people would show up for him. He arranged everything and kept looking at his funeral proceedings from a distance. He had never married and had no children. 40 of the invitees showed up at his funeral, but he still wasn't happy as 20 of the invitees didn't show up. Hundreds of other people showed up too, but maybe Zhang was expecting a little bit too much from the people around him. Number 4. Carlos Camillo. If you were a doctor and your patient woke up during surgery, what would be your reaction? You might not be too surprised, but what if your patient was already dead and woke up during the surgery? In 2007, 33-year-old Venezuelan man Carlos Camillo woke up during his own autopsy, while the doctors were cutting his face to begin the post-mortem, to be more precise. During the autopsy, the body began to bleed excessively. It was at this moment that the surgeons realized that something was odd. They immediately restitched the incision. Carlos told the media that the pain was unbearable and that caused him to regain consciousness. His wife, who had come to identify the body of her deceased husband, went back home with her husband safe and sound. Number 3. Mikhail Mukametsanov. What would you do if you woke up at your own funeral and saw people mourning you? You'd be pretty shocked, right? The same was the case for Fagulio, a 49-year-old woman who died because of a heart stroke in 2012. She was declared dead by the hospital and her family had prepared a funeral for her. But all of a sudden, she woke up at her own funeral. But the sight she saw was too frightening for her. She couldn't bear the shock and had a heart attack again. Fagulio was immediately rushed to the hospital, but this time she couldn't survive and actually died. Maybe life doesn't give you a chance every time. Number 2. Walter Williams. What if you were alive and were declared dead by doctors? Sounds pretty horrible, no? On February 26, 2014, 78-year-old Walter Williams was confirmed to be dead by the hospital and was taken to the funeral home in a body bag. But exactly one day before his funeral, while he was being prepared for the funeral, the people around him noticed that Walter was breathing slowly. All of a sudden, his legs began to move too. Walter was taken to a hospital immediately where it was confirmed that he was alive. For he was too unlucky to survive just for 2 weeks and not anymore. He died again after 2 weeks, and this time for good. Number 1. Noella Racundo. For our top story for today's video, we have a very dramatic story that you can only imagine in movies. What would you do if you got to know that your spouse has given a tip for your murder? Indeed, you would be extremely shocked and mad. In 2016, an Australian citizen, Noella Racundo, was visiting Burundi to attend her stepmother's funeral. But little did she know that her husband was planning a funeral for her too. Her husband had hired a hitman to kill her, but the hitman took pity on her and left her alive and instead told his husband that he had killed her. Her husband prepared her funeral, but to his surprise, instead of her dead body, Noella herself reached the funeral yard. Her husband was then put behind bars for 5 years, and Noella continued to live happily with her children. That was all for today's video, peeps. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends. Also, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss an update. Comment below and tell us which incident amazed you the most. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.